T-minus 1 minute. T-minus 50 seconds. T-minus 40 seconds. T-minus 30 seconds. T-minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Own it, own it, own it, Kong. I own it. It did.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
Hey, y'all. We are back like we never left, back like the back of a Cadillac. And it is Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. And this is the WOW Superheroes Aftershow for WOW Women of Wrestling. Of course, I'm your girl, Stephanie Hardy, host and creator of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast, host and writer for Women's Wrestling Talk, and color commentator featured on the Belladonna Division Battle Club Pro and Black Girl Magic 2022. And thankfully, I am not alone on this fabulous Monday. I am here with the fabulously accomplished mom, just finished an amazing Women of Color in Wrestling panel at Chicago Comic-Con during WrestleMania weekend, Miss Katrina Blake from In Cat We Trust. How are you, Kat?
Hey, I am well. I'm still recovering from Chicago, but I am well.
Yes, and of course, we are here with Emily Mae Heller, who is an Emmy-nominated producer, amazing backstage correspondent for various promotions, as well as someone who got her interview on at WrestleMania weekend with press and all of the above, with so many news outlets, and we are so proud of her. How are you, Emily?
I'm good. You probably saw like the last glimpse of me chugging my coffee. I'm good. I'm caffeinated. I'm energized. I'm ready to have the crew back together to talk WOW. I know it's been a while, but we've all been doing amazing things. And your podcast has had some amazing episodes as well, Steph. So everyone's doing some amazing things. So we're busy, but I'm glad that all of us are together. We're gonna jam pack this episode with lots of WOW content. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. It was really interesting, because last week we weren't able to really gather because we were still gathering ourselves and recovering from the madness that was WrestleMania night 1 and night 2 and that whole week before and week afterward. And it was just really funny that WOW did continue to air and come on, but we wanted to do both episodes that we saw justice. So we're going to be covering the episode from that aired the weekend of WrestleMania and the episode that aired this weekend. And of course, I actually had a WOW interaction at night 1 of WrestleMania. I ran into Vivian Rivera as I was walking through the SoFi Stadium, who lives in Los Angeles by way of El Salvador. So it was really cool to run into her, and it was like I got my dose of WOW without really getting my full hour-long dose of wow. It was amazing to see her. Shout out to her. And she also said that she watches us all the time. So it
Nice.
was really great to see her and actually hear that she watches us. So big ups to Vivian Rivera.
Stephanie, just say that you were stalking the WOW superheroes at WrestleMania. That's okay. Just say that.
Oh no, ain't no stalking. Because trust me, if I wanted to stalk somebody, there's no way I would have found them. It was 80,000 people there that night one. There is no way in the world you could stalk anybody at WrestleMania because everybody and their mama was there.
I
Okay,
know.
but
Well, at
either
WrestleCon, I was
way,
trying to find some of them. I didn't. That
yeah,
was hard to navigate as well. But
it
yeah,
was.
it was cool to see some people in LA.
Yes, and we saw a number of friends, the media, people and personalities that we saw there getting their work on. It was fantastic to be there and experience all of the history that we experienced, you know. It was great. So, and it was a dream come true for me as I Mania since 27 in 2011. So it was just great to be back there in that atmosphere and hopefully get to be back on a more official basis next year. But of course, we're not here to talk about WrestleMania and WWE stuff. We're here to talk about WOW. So, with the first episode, it was titled Rulebooks and Rematches, and we got a whole lot of that, of course, in this first episode that aired during WrestleMania weekend. The first match started with Chainsaw coming out with her little sister, Angelica Dante, who made her debut on the LA Comic Con episode versus Keta Rush. And Keta Rush was trying to get, I guess you could say get a lick back on behalf of Candy Crush because Chainsaw and the rest of the dark, I don't want to say the Dark Order, but the Dark Crew were torturing Candy Crush with those boxing gloves that were given to her by her late grandmother. And Keta Rush felt partly responsible for that because they abducted those gloves as she was in the locker room trying to watch them, but then she had a conversation with Steffi Slaves, which opened the door for them to steal the gloves in the first place. So this was her way of trying to make it right for Candy Crush. So this match was pretty amazing for the most part. And it was a good start to this episode. Keta was dodging Chainsaw with a lot of her quickness because, of course, Keta Rush is known for her quick moves and stuff like that. And Chainsaw is mostly known for her power and for her heavy lifting. But she moves a little bit slower because, of course, she's bigger. But at the same time, Keta Rush was taking advantage of that by moving, and ducking and dodging her a lot of the time. And she hit her with a lot of her patented drop kicks and hit her even with an octopus hold. So
That was cool.
Keta Rush had a good Keta Rush had a good strategy going into the match. But of course, Chainsaw, actually got a hold of Keta and started throwing her into different ring corners. And then Keta Rush actually started kicking Chainsaw a little bit more. But Chainsaw actually grabbed Keta and tossed her a bit back and forth throughout the match and slammed her on her face and was stepping on her hair, as you saw in that first picture. And then there was a point where Chainsaw had grabbed Keta Rush after she had escaped from her and choked her all the way out, which caused for her to get disqualified from the match. And then after that point, when it looked like all hope was lost for Keta Rush, Candy Crush came out there and fought on behalf of her, and they basically, celebrated on top of that. And after the match was over, but yet and still, that was how it ended. It was kind of a triumphant end, while also at the same time showing Candy Crush saving Keta Rush and showing that there was no hard feelings after the whole glove debacle. So, ladies, starting with Emily, since we haven't really seen you in a minute on the show, tell us how you felt about this match. Let's let you go first.
It's definitely calling me out there. So what I liked about this moment and this match. Oh, Stephanie, can you hear me? Okay. Is that they rounded back to the gloves, right? Like the gloves were such an emotional attachment, right? And the fans are always going to wonder what happened to that? Are they going to bury the hatchet? Are they going to look past that? And so I feel like this was a good match to kind of do that. And I do have to say that hold on, where's that picture of Chainsaw is absolutely terrifying. in this, I'm gonna add it back. In this moment, like I don't know, Chainsaw freaks me out. Because
Yeah.
Chainsaw went in here making a statement, very dominant, and said, "All right, I'm like the bigger challenger. I'm coming in here and like you, like kind of a little bit more vulnerable." And Chainsaw took advantage of that, and so you could see that where you know she just came in and was like, "All right, I'm like the stronger," kind of has like the stronger, more like bodybuilder moves, and was like, I'm going to do that and kind of take advantage of that, kind of those weaknesses, because there was like a difference here. But I liked at the end of this match, like you said, where they were kind of burying the hatchet a little bit, moving on from the dilemma and like the problem and the I guess the incident is the right word, the incident that happened with the gloves. And I think it's interesting to see like this big win and this this kind of movement of like support, and maybe maybe there will be more support down the line.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really great analysis there, Emily. Like, I really do hope on the line, that alliance will still, pay dividends for the both of them. So, Katrina, how are you feeling about this match and the performance of Keta Rush and wanting to make it right for Candy Crush?
I thought it was a good open to the episode. And considering once we kind of, the thing with the gloves, and it's been going on for weeks, and it like ended at LA Comic Con's episode, but then it kind of didn't end because they were kind of still kind of going at it. And so, we were kind of like questioning where certain other wrestlers kind of, the WOW superheroes there kind of fit in the story when it happened. Like, did somebody allow it to happen at first before we knew who was really involved when the gloves got taken? And so to kind of see her try to do a solid as a friend, I was like, okay, I appreciate that. That's something I would probably do. Like if I felt a little guilty because I wasn't being as cautious, or I wasn't being as aware as I could have been. And I'm like, maybe if I can do something to at least show you that I still care, or show you that, I'm trying to kind of make amends to an extent, that I would probably do the same thing. And so considering, I wasn't sure because the week before this episode, so that's, I want to say, what's it, maybe 3 weeks ago, we was kind of like, why, we thought they were kind of past the gloves after this, she said what she said at LA Comic Con's episode. And so to kind of have it still kind of there, it's like, well, maybe she might have moved past on, but at least maybe her extending her hand, if you will, to be like, we're cool, even though this was a little bit traumatic for me and the situation, totally understand. It's more like, kind of extending like the arm of like, we're still friends, we're still cool, and I still got you if I need to have you in a situation like that. And so I thought it was a good open, and I thought it also was like a nice way tied up that part of the story.
Yeah. And I think it might play into some tag team action and some alliances later on, because if they've been like really, like Katrina said, they've been really playing the storyline, and like they haven't done really like a full investigation. Like we had the accident, right, with the Beast, right? So like we haven't seen like the full breadth of that yet. So like how can we, like, even this, like that's been since the beginning of the new season of these gloves and what happened to them. So I'm glad that we're kind of seeing this deeper thought into this moment, that it's not just gloves, but it's a deeper alliance, deeper friendships, and perhaps some deeper fighting down the line.
Absolutely. Like, it's a lot of stuff, that we can look forward to when it comes to that alliance. But Keta Rush did really impress me here with this, considering she was just using her quickness to sort of just move about and, try to outsmart Chainsaw. But Chainsaw was just a little bit too powerful, but she did get DQ'd. And it also makes me wonder if Chainsaw is able to move past, her dark rage and actually channel it a little bit better in order to actually get decisive victories in matches as well. But, you never can tell with that. But either way, I like both of you's assessment of said match. So we're going to go ahead and move on to match number 2. But before we go to match number 2, we had a little bit of a segment involving Tiki Chamorro teaching the Tonga twins a dance that sort of, fed into the elements of the sun, the moon, and the ocean.
Moon, what was it like?
I don't.
Moon. I was trying to do it.
It was beautiful though. because the way, and then what made it even more cooler was the fact that the Tonga twins were adding a little bit of more fierceness to it,
Yeah.
to make it more, just a little bit more aggressive. And I thought that was really interesting. I was just like, okay, so y'all gonna do a dance and y'all gonna make it cool. And I liked that. So I really liked that little part. It was just really cute and really innocent. It was really nice. So this fed into the next match, which was a 6-woman tag team match between Tiki Chamara and the Tonga twins versus Ice Cold and Exile. Here again, you have Ice Cold, joining up with another tag team that we had never really seen her with before, because she was once, allied with the Disciplinarian and G.I. Jane at one point, or the Disciplinarian and Samantha Smart, but now she's left them and now she's attached herself to Genesis and Exodus, who of course have now left Malia Hosaka behind. So weirdly, oh, wait a minute. Oh, we have a visitor, Lindsay Baker. Woo, Exile.
Loving
Thank you for joining
Exile.
us.
Yay.
Hi. Thank you for watching from YouTube. And of course, if you liked any part of any one of these episodes, please, chime in the comments. Feel free to chime in the comments. But yeah, this was a pretty hard fought match. It was really cool. You had Genesis and Kona Tonga sort of starting off in the match with a lockup, but then Kona pushed Genesis, to the ring corner, but then Genesis got angry and frustrated and started barking commands at Ice Cold and Exodus, and then tagged in Ice Cold afterward. And I thought this was interesting, considering you call you're not the boss of them. How are you,
Yeah.
these are your teammates. Why are you yelling at them like
There's
that?
some inner trouble happening there. You could definitely sense that.
Yes, already starting off wrong. And then you had a double hip toss with the twins to Ice Cold, and Ice Cold tried to knock down Kona with a rear naked chokehold and then elbow strikes. And then there was another impressive part where one of the twins actually did a lick flare chop to Ice Cold, which kind of gave me, Trish Stratus vibes of how she would lick her hand and then smack you in the chest afterward. And I was like, oh man, that's so cool to see that after we just saw Trish do it at WrestleMania. And then we had a double flapjack, a tiger fake kick from Tiki Chamorro, and a near fall to Ice Cold. And there were just lots of
Oh,
really
to the
great
back.
action.
Oof, to the back.
Yeah.
Oh,
Like Exile was just being really rough with Tiki throughout the match. And it's something that a lot of people do, is that they take advantage of Tiki and her niceness and her
mm-hmm.
sweetness and make it seem like she isn't that good of a fighter. But when Miss Ma'am does decide to get fierce, she does get fierce. And Exodus
Exactly.
here, utilizing her martial arts background throughout the match. But in the end, Tiki took an onslaught of attacks from Cold and Exile, but then but then of course the other team lost control, and the Island Dynasty, as they called them on commentary, wound up winning the match with an assisted splash. And next week, well, before I get to the next episode, they won the match. The Island Dynasty won the match in a very decisive fashion. So, Katrina, how did you feel about this match and the performance and the dominance of the Island Dynasty?
I liked it. We've been seeing for the last few weeks what they kind of was like sticking together because of cultural things, but also like as you mentioned, Tiki has a habit of, people liking to double team and triple team her, and like as if she's kind of an island, like a island by herself. And so the fact that the Tonga twins was like, you know what, we got you in this. It was nice that they got the win with all of that that's been going on. It was a little weird because again, I'm not really sure why Ice Cold fits, and it's just because she has floated around so much. Like before, we kind of, I think the first time we was introduced to her, she was solo, and then she was with teams, and then after that she was with a whole different team, and then it really didn't seem it worked out, or it seemed like she wasn't really gelling well. And I feel like, I think I've said this previously, that G.I. Jane and the Disciplinarian seemed to work very well together, which was good to see, considering there was a lot of, for me, I didn't feel like they really, like, what was going on with the Disciplinarian as far as using some of her assets to her advantage. And so I feel like this works a lot better for her. And so Ice Cold now floating off to be, now with a new team, and it's already like, well, okay, like clearly I don't see them making it that far past if this is how it's starting off, because you're already kind of starting on the wrong foot. And so I think that helped with Tika and the Tonga twins, because they already, not only do they like each other, but they're already like, we got each other. You know, this is like now also a cultural thing. We got each other. We got like family, that kind of thing. And so I felt like this was an advantage for this matchup, and it allowed them to at least show Tiki's not alone, because I do feel like because she's nice, and I know how that goes. You be the nice person, so people try to take advantage of you being nice, or thinking they can kind of one up you because you're nice. And so the fact that she kind of has that to like her advantage now, you have two really tough women, you know, who kind of understands all that and can kind of got your back. And so I thought it was a really good match. I liked that they got the win, and I'm kind of looking forward to see where else we're gonna get for them, because I feel like this could really be a thing. You know, we make the Samoan dynasty, and you think of like the bloodline, and you think of like, and this is like family, but like, you know, the one thing that everybody is always, at least in that culture in very particular, is how much family and that's important to them. And so if they see her like family as well, I feel like they're gonna ride for her the way she needs to be ridden for. And so I'm actually looking forward to what's gonna happen next with this team up. But Ice Cold, as far as her, I mean, I don't know, sis. I think she needs to figure it out where she needs to get out of this, because so far the teams has not been working for her.
Yeah, Kat, I felt the same way. I definitely got some bloodline vibes, right? Where it's like we've seen, especially with like the little vignette of like the kind of like the tribal movement and the very like island kind of like chants, and then the like you felt them kind of being cohesive, right, as a family unit. And you could tell that they want to work together, right? And they have in the past. I know they've had some ups and downs where like they haven't quite been in sync, but I feel like now they're getting back on track with this, you know, this alliance and this kind of tag team, more of a faction, really. But Ice Cold is to Kat's point. Ice Cold was the one that stood out for me in the sense of not necessarily finding her place yet. We've seen her try to make alliances and teams with other, you know, WOW superheroes, and it hasn't been quite a fit, where she's tried to dominate, you know, as a singles competitor, and then tried to dominate as in a group, and she hasn't quite found her groove yet. And so I'm not sure where she's quite going to go after this, because you could tell that like she was trying to be vocally dominant and try to be like, hey, let's try to take charge, let's try to make this happen and this happen, and it's like no one's listening to her. Like no one's taking her seriously. And so I don't know if this has to be like, if this is building to something different where there's going to be like a big rivalry or a big fight or something like that. But I feel like every unit she's put in, she hasn't really found her groove. And, you know, you could tell that Exile and Genesis were kind of finding, like, they work really well together. They have that unit. They know how to make that work. But Ice Cold is like that, you know, is kind of the odd person out in this. And so I'm just trying to that's the feeling I got while watching this match. It was an awesome match. You know, you could obviously tell that the Tonga twins and Tiki, like they're dominating, and we'll see this in this next, you know, we'll talk about this next episode. But I'm glad they found their path and their togetherness, because it definitely shows.
Yeah, it does. And to your point about, to both of you guys' points about, it's just like Ice Cold. It's like we've seen her, you know, maybe have a little bit of a singles run, and then it's like she'll attach herself to a team. Like she has yet to truly solidify herself on her own and her own identity. And I think maybe if she took more time to actually get to know more of herself and stand on her own, you know, she would actually find more dominance, you know, on her own once she actually takes that time with herself, as opposed to just attaching herself with like the next hot, you know, faction that sort of fits her aesthetic only a little bit. And honestly, I feel like once that's finished, you know, that'll be okay. But then I would also mention, you know, that Exile maybe have been on the struggle bus a little bit, even though they're both dominant and they have more of a tag team, you know, chemistry and a know-how with each other. It's just in a sense they've left Malia Hosaka, they've also been on the struggle bus too. So it's just kind of like they were both, I feel like both of them were very mismatched to the point to where they were trying to make it work, but it just wasn't. And when you're going up against a team like Tiki and the Tonga twins, it just doesn't necessarily work out as well, even though they thought they were just going to run through them. So this match was really good. I enjoyed it, and I continue to enjoy the Island Dynasty, because aesthetically they're just so amazing to look at, not only just because of their womanhood together, but because of course they come from the same sort of Polynesian background as well. So it's just really amazing to see them united together, and with them standing for Tiki so she wouldn't feel by herself and isolated in the locker room and feel like she ain't got no friends. So yeah, it was just really good to see
Let's all
them,
be friends.
yes, perform. Like let's just all try to get along, guys. Let's try. Like, please. But yeah, moving forward, though, we did get an announcement that on the next episode that Sophia Lopez, the world's attorney, will be announcing other tag team that's being formed, and we will get to that a little bit later. So after that, we got to our third match, which was yet another tag team match between Team Tough Discipline as G.I. Jane and the Disciplinarian with Samantha Smart versus the Mother Truckers, Big Rig Betty and Holly Swag. Now, this is something that Emily seems to be enjoying very much with a lot of clapping.
Sorry.
Yes. So this sort of feeds into the rematch portion because they did fight the week before. And it sort of came to, a head, and they wound up being insulted. Big Rig Betty and Holly Swag got insulted and called IQ inferior by Samantha Smart. And they didn't take too kindly to that. So they wanted a rematch to prove that they could actually beat these two fair and square. And I appreciated that, courage from the both of them, because you're just not going to insult them and make seem like they're dumb just because they're truckers and they're from the South. Hello, like, don't do that to them. Great people come from Tennessee. Don't do that. So basically, G.I. Jane and Holly Swag, locked up in the ring and to start, and then Holly Swag was actually mocking G.I. Jane's marching in place from her military background. And Jane didn't take too kindly to that, and she slammed Holly down into the mat. But then Big Rig Betty didn't like that, and she tagged in and gave a booty bump and a trip up to um G.I. Jane and the Disciplinarian. And then Jane actually hit a big boot to Holly Swag. And this is
Yeah.
where we saw a lot of the toughness from G.I. Jane, because this is where she started stomping on her and actually doing push ups on top of her head and her back area. And I was just like, oh, girl, you're getting real
Amazing.
cocky up in here. Right.
Amazing.
Like, she was getting real cocky, but I loved it though, because us black women, we got to be confident no matter what anybody says, right? So it was just really crazy. She just kept punishing Holly Swag, rubbing her face, on the ropes and everything. It was just really crazy stuff. And then Samantha Smart was proving to be an X factor by using that sparkly yardstick to get involved on behalf of her team, while the referee wasn't looking. And they isolated Holly away from her mother throughout a good portion of the match. But then finally Betty tagged in and was trading blows with the Disciplinarian back and forth. Then they tagged Holly back in. And there was just lots of fighting back and forth between these two until finally Ref Mark Harris actually saw. Finally, the referee saw something.
A
Okay.
miracle.
Let's get into it. The miracle on WOW. Referee Mark Harris actually saw Samantha Smart getting involved with the yardstick and trying to hit Holly with it. But then Jane got distracted by cursing out the referee and yelling at him and rolling up. And then she got rolled up by Holly Swag for the win. And Holly cut a promo and said, "You thought we were IQ inferior and y'all were IQ stupider." So that's how that ended. So, ladies, starting with Emily, how did you feel about this match, and how do you feel about the mother truckers getting their lick back?
I mean, I think the mother truckers, I have to enunciate, they're so much fun to watch. And again, and then in contrast, because they're kind of like a comedic tag team a little bit. They're coming in with just like such a comedic little look, but they're very serious in the ring. And I liked how the ref finally recognized some interference, recognized some issue with other opponents and people outside the ring. Finally, right? But again, G.I. Jane showed her strength in opposition and doing those push-ups, doing all that like military press stuff. And I loved it. This match I felt was so entertaining. And I'm so glad the mother truckers have found their their way again. And I know this will lead to more things, but this was just really entertaining for me. I really enjoyed it, and it was just a great showcase for both tag teams. And we have to prevent more people, which this is a theme. More people keep interacting from the outside of the ring and getting involved. There's like ankles getting pulled. There's those yardsticks getting involved. We got to do something about that. It's a common theme, and then the ref has to pay attention. Come on, refs. Shout out for this ref for actually making a difference and, following the rules of the game here.
Yeah, we ain't gonna give him too much credit too fast though, because we ain't gonna
just
do
a
that
little
too
credit. I'm not
fast.
gonna take all the credit. Just
Give him a little bit, just a tad bit, because there was some mess involved last week where it was just he. But Katrina, how did you feel about this match?
I hear you.
A smidget of credit, because the referees and WoW really be annoying me. I'm like, how you never? And yes, I know wrestling always have the referees who just magically always miss when shenanigans are going down. But for WoW, it's like sometimes blatant shenanigans, and I'm like, so we just all gonna ignore this? Like, we all didn't see this with our 2 eyes. We all didn't see this,
and so suspend disbelief.
So we get the smidget of credit for this time doing something. And I don't like interference, and I only say this in like, if interference happens, it's like if there's some payback involved, like how before I think Tiki kind of did this a few weeks ago when she kind of came in to help the Tonga twins, because it was like, I believe it was the Fab Four that was doing this, and she kind of came in to help. And I feel like situations like that, it's a little different than when you're just trying to do heel type interference. And so there's a lot that happens a lot in WoW apparently. And so to kind of have, it was as smart as Samantha to kind of use a little bit to an extent. Yes, if you're thinking heel tactics, okay, that was smart. But also she got caught, and so it's like one of those scenarios like, I thought both teams worked really well. Like I said a little bit earlier, I do think G.I. Jane and the Disciplinarian have really good chemistry together. And I feel like this is probably the best we've seen Disciplinarian, honestly, with her team up with G.I. Jane. I feel like it works really well together. And while you have somebody who's like, somebody who's supposed to be about discipline, you think about the army, it's very disciplined, and I feel like that works. And then you have somebody like a Samantha who's supposed to be just a little bit smarter than everybody else. And so while the smarts didn't work this time, as the Mother Truckers did say at the end of the matchup, I thought it was actually really well. And it kind of, again, you already can see how a mother-daughter team worked together, but it's nice when you can kind of see another team when you really wasn't sure where it was going to go kind of gelling. And I think this is literally the best we've been seeing the Disciplinarian in general. I think it's a good tag team, and I'm good tag team wrestling. I'm like, who knows if they can also be somebody going for those titles, because they are working well together. I feel like, if they really use somebody who's like G.I. Jane, who's very dominant, like to do push-ups while somebody's laid in the ring is super disrespectful.
It's amazing. It's so disrespectful.
I don't know if I would take that lying down. Like, you're not gonna do it to me, but to do that while the person's laid out in the ring and it's like, let's do some push-ups, then you got time to do push-ups, that's kind of disrespectful. And so you have somebody like that, and you have, again, Disciplinarian, who has a height advantage. And I feel like this is something I think taller wrestlers or bigger wrestlers should always use their height to an advantage. I feel like they could very well also be a threat for the for the Miami Sweet Heat. And so you never know. I feel like I like that they're working so well together. And I think this gave an opportunity to really see that again, that they work really well together. But this was a really solid matchup, and I was good with the win. But I have to say, even though there was shenanigans afoot, that it's nice to see how well we're seeing the Disciplinarian now. And seeing it where it's working well, and we're just like, what are you guys doing with regards to, you're not really sure where her place is. They felt like they have it now with her, and I like that. And so while they were doing things I wasn't too fond of, I do like the showing that they shown on that episode.
Yeah, I like their showing too. Like both teams really did prove why, they both could be in contention for those tag titles, if they really truly wanted to. And you are right. Like that was the best that I had ever seen Disciplinarian perform as well as G.I. Jane. So if they both wanted to go for the tag titles held by the Carlson twins, they really could. And it would be, it would matter a whole lot. But it's just that, when it comes to a lot of different things, it's like I always say, like to Emily's point about with Samantha Smart being out there, I said on Twitter, like while I was live tweeting for this more recent episode, it pays dividends to have a manager in WoW, because you can get all kinds of wins and all kinds of crazy stuff happening for your career when you have a manager out there to do your bidding for you. It's
And you get
crazy.
away with so much more when you have a manager or someone else on the outside. I feel like
Yeah,
singles competitors without a manager don't get as far.
right. It's crazy. It's really crazy how it's like that. But in WoW, it's like you see Lana Star, you see Sophia Lopez, and then you see Samantha Smart getting involved with them. And it's just like, man, like I feel like maybe every wrestler in WoW should probably have a manager just to even up the odds at this point. But either way, Samantha Smart didn't get the upper hand in this match, and the Mother Truckers wound up winning. But this won't be the last we'll see of Samantha Smart and the Mother Truckers in this episode. So we will move forward with our next match, which was the main event. But of course, we had a segment. We got to spend some more time with Vicky Lynn McCoy, who is the enforcer of the Fab Four. And we got to spend more time with her at her Oklahoma ranch, the McCoy Ranch. And she talked about, a little bit of her family background and how her grandfather's money, from him being an oil tycoon, helped to pay for her ranch and basically help her to pay for her lifestyle and everything as a hellraiser, and talked about how her mom was actually a little bit of a criminal. Her mom's side of the family were a little bit of, outlaw criminals in the old west from the 1700s. And I thought that was really interesting, because every time I think about stuff like that, I think about movies like The Harder They Fall and Tombstone and Gunsmoke and
It all
all
makes
those.
sense now. It all makes sense.
Yeah, it all makes sense, So basically she comes from a long line of strong family members who just did whatever they wanted to do in the Wild West. So it just made sense. And she said that her ring style is very vicious, and that, she doesn't hit any flips, she just hits you really hard like a tornado. Like we were talking about off camera earlier. So she basically said, if anybody wants to come for Penelope Pink and the tag titles with the Carlson twins, they have to go through me. So she is that enforcer. But a question that they kept asking on commentary was, if Vicky Lynn were to win this match against Princess Aussie, would she qualify to face Penelope Pink? For what does she want herself? You just never know. So this led into the main event for this episode, which was Vicky Lynn McCoy versus Princess Aussie, who we hadn't really seen a little bit, like a lot of here lately, but it was really refreshing to see her in this match. It was really good. Aussie, really brought her A game going up against someone as imposing as Vicky Lynn McCoy. She had a head scissors takedown and hit strikes onto Vicky Lynn McCoy earlier in the match. Vicky Lynn then knocked Aussie down with a clothesline and a blow to her back, and then she had lots of trash talking as well. Because if it's one thing Miss Ma'am is going to do from the Wild West, is trash talk you while she's beating you down, and that was really interesting. She kept breaking her bit by bit, but Princess Aussie, of course, kept fighting through, as you can see, with that cutter that she was hitting on Vicky Lynn McCoy, her cutter from down under. But that didn't necessarily help, because of course Vicky kicked out of that, and she was wondering, what else would she have to do to knock down Vicky Lynn McCoy. But Vicky Lynn hit a crossbody onto Princess Aussie in the ring corner for a near fall. And then she also Aussie also hit a kick and splashes with a near fall. And then she even hit and Princess Aussie even hit a backbreaker to Vicky Lynn McCoy, and that still didn't do the job either. And it was just this one impressive part where Aussie even hit the Indian Deathlock onto Vicky Lynn McCoy. And you would have thought that she would have tapped out after that point, but she didn't. But thanks to a distraction from Lana Starr, here again, a manager
Again, people from the outside.
interfering, she pushed that bottom rope towards Vicky Lynn McCoy, and the referee Ben saw it. And as Ozzy got frustrated after hitting her cutter from down under again, Lana Starr blocked her from climbing up the top rope, and Vicky Lynn McCoy hit the pink thunder bomb in order to win the match. So,
Oh man.
yeah, after Vicky Lynn
Ugh.
won, she cut a promo afterward and said that, of course, if you want to come for the titles, you got to come through me first, and basically reiterating what she said in that promo. And that was basically where WoW, that episode of WoW ended. So, Katrina, how did you feel about this match and the performance of Vicky Lynn McCoy after hearing a little bit more about her backstory?
Well, the backstory made sense. And I was like, okay, again, when you think of the group already, the group is supposed to be like, we got money, we're a little better than everybody, and so to have a backstory is like, oh my, some stuff kind of went down, some shenanigans kind of went down, and this is what happened. Like, it's like kind of like just kind of bragging almost about like the background. And so it actually made sense. And I actually, to me, because usually when you have like tycoon, that's considered like maybe old, like almost old money, like the saying is old money. And so it made sense why she fits. But then again, she's an enforcer. And so while it is also very possible that she can go against Penelope Pink at some point, because a solo star is a solo star regardless. And while we do have the twins, she's the other soloist of that four, outside of Lana Star being like the person in charge and kind of doing the puppeteering behind the scenes. And so it's very possible that she, I don't know, like right now she's the enforcer, and her saying that even to the point where you have to go through me, which is a very solid thing for an enforcer to say. But would that be something that she would always be okay with being? And I feel like, again, they're a group, but they're also about self too, and so that always doesn't fly for that long when you have a group where it was a lot of more self-interest rather than interest as the group. As far as the matchup, I thought it was good. It was nice to see Princess Austin, because we haven't seen her in some time. I want to say months. It feels like it might have been months we haven't seen her, and so it was nice to kind of see her again, which she's always very active with the tweets I've noticed on Twitter. So shout out to you for that one. But I thought it was good. And again, it just made sense. Like, even though it was unfortunate that she lost, I felt like, again, with a person like Vicky, who's like super like dominant, but also enforcing type, her winning the way she did, to me, made sense, because it's like, this is the type of wrestler she is. And so like, while it was some stuff going on, it also was like a very like kind of dominant way to end that match too. And so it kind of showcased a bit of why she's kind of needed in the Fab Four, to me at least. But it was a good end for that episode. And again, it was nice to see Princess Aussie, but it also again shows just how dominant the Fab Four are. Like, they clearly are running things in WoW at the moment. And so it's like, it makes it, and I know you got the beef with them, in particular with Penelope, but it's just in this regard, it made sense why she's the enforcer. And I think this really showcased why she was.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think this was an opportunity for one of the Fab Four to step out of the group and showcase what they could do by themselves. And this was an uphill battle for Princess Aussie. We've seen her dominate before. We've seen her get some wins. We've seen her get some losses. But this one was, I think, one of her toughest matches so far, because she really had to, I think she did, even though she lost, I think she did prove that she could go up against any of the Fab Four. But again, this outside interference has to be put under control. We have to figure out a way to curve that a little bit, because it's really causing, competitors like Princess Aussie to have moments be interfered with and not be able to really go fully through on a match, and give an upper hand for another competitor. I think this is, obviously we'll talk about this next episode, but I think this was a message to the rest of the WoW roster that The Fab Four could be together or they could be separate, but they will continue to dominate.
Exactly. Like Lana Star said, after the match was over, she said, stay tuned for the Lana Star show. So she definitely, has it in her mind that the Fab Four are, set to dominate all of WoW, for however long she chooses for them to dominate. Because not only are they great and athletically sound, she's always going to be out there doing their bidding for them in order for them to stay on top. And that's something that she is willing to do. And it's diabolical and you hate to see it because it sort of makes a lot of talent like Princess Aussie and so many other women have to sit down and sort of wait their turns when it comes to stuff like that, and it is so frustrating. But at the same time, you just kind of like, you got to give it to Lana Star, for her believing in the talent of the group. And it's just, you have someone like Vicky Lynn McCoy who is so imposing, like it just does nothing but just add, more value to them as a team. So yeah, shout out to I La are the Sandman. Thank you for joining us. And shout out to David McLean. What's up? Hi. So yeah, like it's just a really cool, it's not really cool, but at the same time, that you have these women who are in this faction being as dominant as they know how to be, and it almost feels like there's no stopping them. But before WoW went off the air, we saw Samantha Smart in an alley of sorts talking on a cell phone to someone, and it sounds like she was talking to a tow company to get the tow truck of the mother truckers towed away from the WoW parking lot. We will see more of
Boss
this in
move.
the next episode, but I thought that was just mad petty. I was just like, wow. So out of all the things you could have done to get back at them, you decided to get their truck towed. You suck.
Hey, if they can't get around anywhere, then they can't get to the gym to work out. They can't get to places. I think it's smart, You got to cut them off by the knees.
Yeah. And when they find her and when they get their truck back, they're going to stuff her in the hood. So, hey, whatever. So, before we go to our next episode in this double dose of wow and a recap show, we're going to go to commercial and pay some bills real quick, and we'll be right back.
Hey peeps, TK Trinidad here, boss lady of Women's Wrestling Talk. And I want to say thank you so much for watching because you've got millions of options. Plus, you don't have to worry about sharing your password to check us out. But while you're here, hopefully you know we have so many more shows to watch, like Turnbuckle Glam, Raw Post Show, WOW Post Show, AEW Dynamite Post Show, Women's Wrestling Army Post Show, NXT Post Show, Impact Wrestling Post Show, AEW Rampage and SmackDown Live Post Show, On the Scroll, ROH Post Show, WWT Live, plus all of our interviews with the hottest women's wrestlers in the game. Make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe. Check out our website at www.talkpod.com and follow us on all social media platforms at www.talkpod, and make sure to spread the word. That means send this to the group chat. Yes, even the person with the green bubble. Thanks again so much for watching Women's Wrestling Talk, the number one women's wrestling show on the planet. Ciao for now.
All right. Oh, all right. Shout out to TK Trinidad, our CEO, for that fabulous commercial showing all of the shows that we've got going on. So please, check us out every week. We have new content every other day. So please proceed to check us out and all the stuff that we post every single day. So of course, we're moving to our more recent episode that came on this Saturday of WOW Superheroes. And it was a very power packed episode. Of course, it was defending the title because in the main event, we had Leia Makoa, one of our absolute going up against my absolute worst enemy, Penelope Pink, for the WoW World title in the main event. But before we got to the main event, we had to go to our first match, which was a tag team match. with Steffi Slays and Jennifer Flores. That's Team Generation Texas versus Sylvia Sanchez and Vivian Rivera, who were revealed to be the new tag team that Sophia Lopez has now employed and now is managing with her. And they both came out, wearing bandanas around their faces, which I thought was really interesting and very different for Vivian Rivera, who we've seen on WoW a lot, be very, very happy and really jovial, but can get it on in the ring and stuff. But now it's like she sort of has a new attitude. Um, and at this point, she's aligned with Sylvia Sanchez, and now they're here to just bring it with this new iteration of this team. So it was really good to see Sophia Lopez because she had been gone after a while, because we did see her aligned with Tormenta, but then ever since Tormenta had sort of been on the struggle bus a bit, we hadn't really seen them together. So now here is Sophia Lopez with a new team. So how are we feeling about this new tag team before we go into this match?
I mean, I love this new tag team. I think they're bringing they were really fun, and they've like kept on the level of um we've seen Jennifer Flores. I liked it a lot. I think it had a lot of like kind of like young energy. Like it's their debut as a team, and it worked really well.
Yeah, we kind of got a bit of a glimpse of Hill Vivian Rivera at LA Comic Con, and remember we were surprised. We was like, "Wait, what? Like, what's this?" We didn't, we're used to her, kind of being the face in this, and so for her to finally kind of embrace that, we was like, "Okay." It was like, "Okay, now I'm kind of seeing it come into fruition," because we saw it, but we saw it in regards to like that kind of battle royale, and rather not really got to see. And so to kind of see her again with Sophia, Lopez, being the greatest attorney, meaning she can find everything she needs to find to, get what she needs to get done as far as being a manager. And so I thought it was a nice kind of like, okay, to kind of see how, again, with the tag team wrestling, this could very well be a problematic team going forward.
Yeah, it really could have. And yes, we did see a little bit of the change in attitude in Vivian Rivera at LA Comic Con, and it caught us off guard. But it seems like now it's all coming together with this team. So, with Generation Texas, you had Jennifer Flores starting off the match, and she started it off with Sylvia Sanchez, who we aren't really necessarily as familiar with, but of course, this match, helped us to get familiar with her. And Sylvia was really tough in the early goings of this match. Like she was really bringing it, with her toughness. And then you also had a little bit of miscommunication with Sylvia and Vivian Rivera, which can come when you have a new partnership, when it comes to a new team and stuff like that. And Jennifer Flores took advantage of that with a really clean looking code breaker, and it was just really good to see that action take place with her and Steffi Slays, bringing it with that Generation Texas action, and it was just really good. But throughout this match, you saw Sophia Lopez here again with the managers getting involved, grabbing onto Steffi Slays and grabbing onto Jennifer Flores and sort of stopping them with their momentum going throughout the match. So it was just really interesting how a lot of that was going on throughout it. But either way, it proved to pay dividends because in the end, um, oh my gosh, I'm blanking. I blanked on who won this match, guys. Wasn't it Generation Texas that won the match, guys?
I believe so.
So
Yeah, it was Generation Texas who wound up winning the match um and rising above the new tag team here. But Vivian and Sylvia had nothing to be ashamed of outside of their manager cheating for them. But either way, it was still really good. And it seems like Generation Texas has a little bit more of a rhythm here, because they won their match sort of the same way they won their match last week. Well, at least 2 weeks ago. So it was really cool to see them, finding their groove as a tag team with Steffi and Jennifer Flores. So, how are we feeling about Generation Texas and their performance? Starting with Emily.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen Jennifer Flores like flourish in singles competition, and she's obviously really talented outside of WoW as well. And I think this is going to be a really dominant tag team. I think they have to obviously, get a few more matches kind of going and under their belt. But I think this is going to be a great one because they're both very fast. They're both very quick. They have great like foundational footwork, and they really can be do some somewhat acrobatic moves. So I think they're going to dominate, and I think this was a good showcase for them. Again, I think they're a little bit more on the babyface side. I think there's some other heel tag teams that are a little bit more vicious. But we'll see. Maybe they'll transition a little bit and have moments of a little aggression that we can see.
Absolutely. What about you, Kat?
I thought this was a good match. I do think that, you know, Steffi and Jen work well together. And again, it's nice kind of seeing like a bit of a veteran kind of helping somebody who's more new in wrestling. And I think considering that while it's kind of like a mentor mentee, it doesn't seem that way when they're wrestling. I feel like they've kind of gelled pretty well. But it's also I'm interested to kind of see what this new tag team comes up with, because Sophia was in charge of Tormenta, and I'm gonna assume there's a reason we haven't seen her in a little bit. But Tormenta was super badass as well. And so clearly she knows how to find, the talent if necessary. And so maybe she kind of moved away a little bit from finding the solo star, and maybe she's working more of a tag team. Or maybe it will be where she can be like another Lana, where she'll have a solo person and a tag team and like a little squad as well. Because, all the women in that group are Latina. And so, it's very possible that that's where she can kind of be going next, and maybe getting her own little thing to maybe even challenge Alana Star and challenge the Fab Four. And so this could very well be one of those scenarios. But I thought it was a really good showing for us seeing them for their first time, together, and also like really getting to see Vivian, because I said we saw very little bit of that in LA. I thought that was something that it looks well. So really good open to the episode.
Yes, it was a really good opening to the episode, but I'm finding that my information, we have a little bit of a correction here. Vivian Rivera and Sylvia actually wound up winning the match. And Vivian hit Jennifer Flores with a gory bomb on top of
Yeah.
Steffi Slays in order to win that match. So that's what happened. Forgive us, forgive me for that mix up. I apologize for
That's
that.
okay. We were covering a lot of matches today.
Yes. And also shout out to Sandman in the comments saying their name is Generation Texas. No, I gave them that name because on WOW Superheroes they keep talking about how
On commentary,
on commentary they keep talking about how Steffi Slays and Jennifer Flores are both millennial, or one is a millennial and the other one is Generation Z. So I call them Generation Texas because they're also both from the state of Texas. So that's why I call them Generation Texas. So if you watch our after show, you'll know that I give names to different teams every now and again. So that's what that is. That's just a little gimmick that I have going on. Their name isn't actually Generation Texas, but if they want to pick it up, they can pick it up, and pay me. So that would be fun. But either
pay those
way,
royalties.
yes, pay me those royalties if they ever want to use it. So yeah, the next match, moving forward with the rest of the show, was yet another tag team match between Reina Del Rey and Wrecking Ball, which was a very different tag team that I wasn't expecting, but I was very intrigued to see how it was going to work out, versus the Heavy Metal Sisters as Fury, Mesmeriah, and Razor, friend of the pod. So this match was pretty good, and it was like really heavy hitting because of course you have the Heavy Metal Sisters who made a statement after ganging up on Jesse Jones and Americana and trying to injure Jesse Jones before their match that they had. And then of course you also thought back to how the Heavy Metal Sisters were on the struggle bus, finding their footing and their rhythm when it came to them getting along and Razor sort of walking away from them. So it seems that now maybe they've ironed out their issues and now they're back together with this team to team up against Reina Del Rey and Wrecking Ball. But Reina Del Rey and Wrecking Ball turned out to be a very scary pair when it came to them, fighting Fury and the other Heavy Metal Sisters. Like it was just really crazy. Like Razor, as much as we love her, was getting destroyed throughout the entire match. Getting like
Again.
getting ganged up on and separated from her sisters by Wrecking Ball and Reina and stuff like that. And they were just and eventually the match got so heated between all of these women to the point to where it just evolved into a brawl and they didn't even finish the match. Like the ref got hit. Like there was just all types of madness going on between these women. And now everybody just started fighting to the point to where they were ringing the bell and they had to break them up. So we really didn't get a definitive finish here. But either way, it was still really cool action from these women, just ransacking each other, which is something that you rarely, I mean, you see it on WoW, but you don't see it a whole lot
Yeah.
where you see like a major brawl breakout, in the middle of the show.
Yeah. I
So,
mean, this is the one that
yeah.
ended in the double DQ, right?
Yes.
Yeah, this was wild. This was one of my favorite matches of the last few weeks, like when we see them all together. This was such a brawl, like you said. Uh, excuse you. Sorry, my cat. Um, I loved how you saw the strength of Reina Del Rey and Wrecking Ball. Those two together are powerhouse team right there. As you got just the strength of both of them, and Wrecking Ball, the name is true, right? Going in, causing a lot of damage, and poor Razor, like you said, always gets the brunt of everything, always getting like a bunch of the hits, and the other team members scramble trying to figure out how to like come to her defense. But I really liked this a lot. I liked how it did like it elevated the episode altogether because this just like the story was there and this big brawl was there, and like I was upset that there was a double DQ because it's like I wanted someone to like obviously be on top, but it showed that all of these women were so incredible, causing a lot of trouble, but they're all powerhouses, especially Reina Del Rey and Wrecking Ball. The two of them together, man, they're going to plow through the tag team division for sure.
Definitely. Like, I definitely agree with that. What about you, Katrina?
It was a good match, and it was unfortunate because we know with Heavy Metal Sisters, they've been a lot of discord in the last couple of weeks between them, and if they're actually on the same page, or they're going to break up, or they're going to stay together, and so to the point where now you're in a matchup where it looks like okay. And I'm always like Sarah takes a lot of, she takes a lot of the, punishment. Sometimes it seems like in these matches, we love you over here, Sarah, but Razor takes a lot of punishment, and so to kind of get to a point where it got that hectic, where now it's just a brawl, and to the point where you kind of had to disqualify both teams. I don't know if this is more of like I felt like with one end with Wrecking Ball and Rena, it was more like we're going to show that we can, be dominant because, at one point Rana was also in the line to kind of fight for the title. And so I guess they're kind of like doing whatever with her right now. And so you have somebody like that who's already kind of tough as this. She was able to take on the beast, pretty, easily to an extent that you have somebody like a Wrecking Ball with the name kind of speaks for itself, just kind of wreck things. And so you have somebody like that. And then you have a group who are already kind of struggling with their own communication. And I felt like that kind of all kind of came to head at the same time during that matchup. So I think that's why we saw all of that kind of get real hectic, and where it was like, what do you do in a situation where it's kind of a lot happening? But otherwise, it was a really, as you said, we don't see that often in the middle of a show where it's usually in the beginning where it got like person couldn't wait to the end.
Or the end.
Or it's at the end where you're like, wait a minute, what's going to happen today? And then you're going to wait to next week to see what happens. And so I feel like in this, like, this could really well be a really good feud if this is done well. And maybe this will be the thing that kind of gets the heavy metal sisters kind of back on the same page. You got two people who kind of willing to kind of go do whatever they need to do to kind of beat you. I feel like that, if anything, should be an aha to get yourself together. This should be it. And so I'm wondering what we're going to see next week. If we're going to see a continuation of this, or is it going to be like in a few weeks? Because sometimes they'll switch up some of the matches, and so I'm looking forward to it. But I feel like that's kind of what was happening in this matchup.
Yeah, Katrina, to your point, like to add to that, I felt like there was like a level of frustration on like Razor and like that whole team, because they've had such a tough time the last few months trying to get ahead. Reina Del Rey has had a title shot, has fought for gold, has done that, and so she knows that path, she knows how it feels, and she's still continuing to fight for that. And so I felt like the frustration was really there, and I think that's why the brawl broke out so quickly and was just such a it wasn't quite a surprise for me as I was watching, because I could see the level physically and just emotionally on the that team side of how frustrated they were. So it kind of built to that.
Yeah, it was just a lot of emotions running high throughout that match, and to the point to where it didn't even finish. So maybe at some point we'll get, a blow off for it, so maybe they can fight each other and then can continue the rivalry of what's going on. But either way, it was really cool. So before we go to our next match, we did find out that Samantha really did get the mother trucker's truck towed, and they found out about it after they got out of the WOW gym in the locker room. And so, and then the thing about this segment that gagged me was the fact that they had on their WOW jumpsuits, and they are so cute. Like, there has to be a way
The
where
purple.
we can get some WOW jumpsuits. They're so cute. Like, I really want one. I know I'm not an athlete. I know I'm not contracted with y'all, but dang it, I want a jumpsuit so
I
bad.
mean, I think as
Like,
the WOW post show super hosts, I think we should get some.
yes, we should. I really feel
Agreed.
like we should
Saying.
get some because they looked so cute on the mother truckers, but they looked really frustrated with the fact that their truck was gone out of the alley. And so they had to walk 2 miles from where they were to go to, the impound to get their truck back. So I can only imagine how frustrated they were having to do that, and then having to do that from Los Angeles and where they are. So it's just like, oh my God, I know they had to be tired after a long day's work and then having to go and get their truck from being towed. So hopefully we'll see more of them getting their stuff back. But another segment that came on before this next match was the fact that we saw Randy Rara and Coach Campanelli talking backstage. And Randy was telling Coach that even though they wound up losing their WOW tag team titles to the Carlson twins due to, both of the referees actually seeing them cheat, because of course it's cool when the Fab Four does it, but not cool when anybody else does it. But either way, that's where we're at. Randy was saying that she did enjoy actually doing whatever it took to try to win that match and win the tag titles. So a part of me felt like, so are we seeing Randy sort of going to the dark side now? Like, is that what we're seeing?
It's possible.
I don't know. Maybe. I think we saw some glimpse of it. I think there's some Randy rah dark energy happening.
Yeah, for her to enjoy, doing underhanded things in order to win. It was like she was the one who was trying to convince Coach that maybe they didn't do it. And now she's switched over to the dark
I
side.
mean,
So
cheerleaders can be really mean, right? So I think she's like peeling the onion back a little bit, and we're seeing a little bit more depth to Randy Rara.
yeah. Give her the red lightsaber. You just shout out to Figaro. Um the cat
She's taking
making an
over
appearance.
everything. She's knocking everything down in this office right now. This is what
Yes.
I'm dealing with.
We love her. We love her. She's a part of us. Um, so yeah, after that, they decided to get their groove back by taking on a new tag team. Well, not a new tag team, but basically a tag team that's been sort of blazing a trail in WoW, when that's Gigi Gianni and Amber Rodriguez. who we love. Brr, 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 brr. Now, of course, they decided to use the WoW ramp as their runway because they feel like they're the most fabulous tag team in all of WoW. And they went on to face Coach Campanelli and Randy Rara, who, of course, are trying to build themselves back up after their devastating loss of the tag titles. Now, Coach Campanelli was really impressive here in this match. She hit a flipping neck breaker onto Gigi Gianni, and then somehow throughout the match, we got to see more of AJ Mendez on commentary, goofing around on camera, and we got to see her
She
amazing
was
and
having way
impressive
too much fun.
guns. I was just like, girl, you got these muscles in your arms. Just come back to us.
Did
Come
you
back
feel
to the
like
ring,
commentary was
AJ.
kind of like off the rails a little bit on this episode? Because I feel
They
like
were having a lot
McLean
of
and
fun.
AJ, like they were all talking about like taking their, was it this episode where they're like taking their clothes off, or like McLean going to the gym or something? I was like, what is happening?
Yeah, I think that it was something where they were talking about, shirts coming off or something like that. It was just really weird. But outside of that, they were having the time of their lives. They were having a ball with each other. Shout out to David McLean, AJ Mendez, and Stephen Dickey because they be having fun and it's really good to listen to
They
it.
were
But
cracking me up. I
like
was like, what
this,
are
it
they
was
saying right now?
Yeah, it was really crazy, but yeah, I want AJ Mendez back in the ring selfishly. I know she's retired, but when it comes to wrestling, you're never truly retired. So I mean, come back. But either way, Randy actually, was really impressive with her athleticism as well, using her flexibility to dodge a lot of the moves. But Amber Rodriguez was impressive with hitting a clothesline and her toughness throughout the match as well. So it was a really good match, but in the end, Coach and Randy Rara won the match with an assisted senton bomb onto Amber Rodriguez. And this was sort of their way of climbing back up that ladder towards the tag title. So this was really a really solid matchup in terms of their athleticism. So it was really good. And shout out to Chad in the comments saying that he supports Amber and Gigi. Yep, we support them too. And he's asking if WoW is still on Pluto TV. Yes, it is. The Sandman is asking that. Now, I'm not sure how recent those episodes are, but they are still on Pluto TV. So,
Yeah.
Katrina, how did you feel about this tag team match, Butch and Randy, and their performance?
It was good. Randy, when you think of like some of the promos previously before they even won the titles, it always seemed like Coach was the one kind of egging Randy to be a little bit more tough. And like it even at points seemed like Coach was the one who kind of did certain things to kind of get the, needed results to kind of progress to be, the number one contenders for the tag titles. And so to kind of have Randy now, and then maybe it's because like, after the way they lost it, you gained it, and then to lose it in that fashion, I can kind of see like maybe it's just like being super nice and cheerful, and the like team spirit thing might not necessarily work with a team like Miami Sweet Heat, when again they're also known for a lot of shenanigans with that group. And so I feel like maybe that's like, I don't know if it's necessarily her necessarily in the dark side, or more like maybe this is a necessary thing when you have a team or a stable where this is what they do. But it was really nice to kind of see them, considering like how all the nonsense happened and they wasn't able to really get a full correct match without interference to get the titles back. That okay, if they have to work their way back, which kind of shows that they're willing to do what they need to do to get those belts back. I thought it was a good showing, but I also do like Amber and Gigi together. We love Amber Rodriguez over here on this end, and so kind of seeing the difference of how when it was Sahara's, from that to her being it's a nice kind of change. You're like, okay, you're being your fabulous self. And I thought they even had moments where they really shone. And I think all four of them at points during this matchup, there were times where they were all just moments where they kind of shined. And so it was good to see that. I thought they did that really well. But I think not that you want necessarily Amber and Gigi to lose, but I feel like in the situation with both Coach and Randy kind of being kind of screwed over multiple times, you kind of need to get yourselves back in the space where you're like, okay, we're winning matches again, where it's not like we're winning it and there's nothing kind of interfering from us getting the W in the match.
Yeah, I feel like Coach Campanelli like mentally prepared Randy Rara a little and herself a little bit better for this match. Going in, I think they've had enough kind of defeats and enough mental games against them that they wanted to go in and make a statement. And I think the other team was great as well. We obviously, like Kat said, we love Gigi, we love Amber, but I think they're fed up. Like Randy Rara, Coach Campanelli, like they're done, right? They are like tired of all the interference. They're tired of all the mind games. They're tired of all of these other teams getting this moment. And so we talked a lot about frustration in some of the other matches. And I feel like with the kind of the moves that they had happen and kind of the moments in this match, I feel like you could see this underlying anger, which I think might be what we're sensing with Randy Rara, where maybe it's not a dark side, but maybe it's like a frustration and anger and angst with this process and with where she feels like she's going. And I think maybe that's the thing that we've been sensing, is that there's a little bit of an edge to her because she's been around this season and hasn't been as successful as she wants to be.
That's a really good point, because people do tend to act out when they do feel frustrated inside with their situation. They tend to, sometimes some people, take their frustration and then it channels outwardly into dark, intentions, as opposed to utilizing that frustration to make their situation better. So you do kind of have a point about that. But at least at this point, with this match, they didn't, continue their cheating ways. At least they didn't, at least they actually won the match against Gigi and Amber, fair and square, as opposed to just continuing, to be dark and evil in that way. So I do commend them for that. And I do commend them for trying to get back, up on that ladder, to try to qualify for those tag titles again, because they could have just so easily decided to cheat, because it worked for them last time. But they didn't do that. So big ups to Coach and Randy Rara for that. And also, big ups to the interview that we did, that I did do with Coach Campanelli. If you haven't watched that already on Women's Wrestling Talk's YouTube page, please go ahead and check that out and like, share, and subscribe to Women's Wrestling Talk on YouTube. So before we go to our main event, we get a little bit of an update on the status of the Beast, as she's been recovering from her injury that she sustained from getting attacked in the alley by the mystery assailant. And she's been, of course, being willed on and encouraged by Jungle Girl, who, of course, survived, is a cancer survivor. So she was actually helping her, sort of recover from her injury and sort of bounce back so she can come back and win her WOW World title. So that was really good to see. Now, there is no timeline on when she's going to be returning, but it was good to see that the Beast is, working her way back to us in the WOW atmosphere. That was really good to see. And Penelope Pink better watch out. So, moving forward to that main event, we had Leia Makoa versus Penelope Pink for the WOW World title. And this was something that was a long time coming for Leia Makoa, because she did mention, when we first saw her, that was one of her dreams and one of her goals, to be able to work up to the point to challenge whoever is going to be the WOW World Champion. Now, it just so happens that the title just so happens to be on Miss Penelope Pink, who, of course, won it at Los Angeles Comic-Con in the wild card thing. And of course, she was accompanied by Miss Lana Starr, which means you can pretty much guess how this might have gone. So, but before it went out like that, the match did turn out to be really good. Penelope Pink decided to come out of obscurity to defend her title, because ever since she won it, we didn't see her that much, because she decided to hide from everybody because she knows she's got a target on her back. So then she finally came out to defend her title, and Penelope Pink did hit hard in this match, but Leia, as you can see in this picture, was hitting her harder with her spears into the ring corner to Penelope Pink. And I can tell you, throughout this match, I was living vicariously through her, because every punch and every kick that Leia hit to Penelope Pink, I wanted to hit. So she just kept hitting her over and over again, and just hit her with that toughness that we've come to expect from Leia Makoa. And she was really focused, throughout this match. But Penelope did have a good strategy. I will give credit where credit is due, by trying to injure Leia Makoa's knee after she tweaked it a little bit throughout the match. And then at another point, it seemed like Leia was actually fighting this match with just one leg by actually giving her a vicious kick. But of course, y'all know the shenanigans. Lana Starr tripped up Leia in order to give Penelope the win and the upper hand. And this same referee we were just giving props to did not see the shenanigans taking place. So Penelope Pink hit her move onto Leia Makoa and retained her WOW World title. And after she won, the rest of the Fab Four came out and ganged up on Leia and proceeded to beat up on her. But of course, Leia was not alone. In her other Polynesian sisters, the Tonga twins and Tiki Shamaro came out to defend her, and they had a standoff in the middle of the ring, and we got another brawl between them all. And that's basically how WOW ended this episode. And it was fire. It was a
So many
fire way to end it.
brawls.
Yeah, it was a fire way to end it, even though Leia Makoa did not take the title
Yeah.
off of Penelope Pink.
I know you
which
don't like
saddened me.
Penelope Pink, but man, she showcased in this match. She showcased. I know you have heat with her, but this was such a good match. I love how it had everyone come out, you know, at the end. Like, this visual right here is such a powerful statement. It's a powerful visual because you have both sides coming out, and this is just going to add fuel to the fire. Obviously, the referee did not step up, was not on their A game, had, again, more interference with WOW matches, especially a championship match. You have to be on your A game. And this, I loved that it just ended in chaos and ended in this, like, this is going to be a thing that will continue. This is a story that will continue on, and we'll see it for weeks and weeks. And, you know, pink is my favorite color, Stephanie. So,
I mean, pink is a beautiful color. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I like
so
pink
Penelope
too.
Pink, I gotta, you know.
I mean, I like pink too, but my thing is Penelope doesn't own it, so therefore it's not specifically just her color. So I mean, it's all right. And yeah, she did do a good job. I mean, Miss Ma'am is talented, but you know, it's just she feels like she has to be underhanded to win, and that's just the part that I can't
I
stand.
think we have to have a straight match. We have to have the ref on their game. We have to have no outside interference. Like, make it a stipulation. Make it a stipulation. We can have, you know, David McLean do that. And in
Yeah.
future weeks, have a straight championship match. You know, and maybe it's a rematch. Maybe there's another turn of events depending on who the opponent is. But it needs to be a straight match.
Yeah, I'll give my thoughts on that part later, but I got to hear what Katrina has to say. How did you feel about this match and the performance of both women?
I thought it was a good match. I know, like, and it's weird because we kind of saw a clean win at LA Comic Con when she became champion. It was a clean win. She won that cleanly. There was no interference, and this is kind of when we kind of saw them kind of join together for the first time. And so she's capable of doing so. And that was a different even situation because you had like multiple women who was vying for the same title, and you still kind of came out on top. And so she can do that. It's actually possible for her to do it. I'm not sure why she doesn't, because she can. And maybe it's just Lana trying to make sure she keeps her ducks in a row and make sure everything stays the way she wanted it to stay. But we have seen Penelope actually go in and do it cleanly. This is why I said earlier about the referee. He get a smidget of credit, because literally in the next episode he was not on his so, you know, the smidget that he got was because clearly he can't seem to do this consistently on a week by week basis to make sure he do his job. And so I thought, again, we knew we would have a match with Leia at some point, because this was what the goal was for her from American when we was introduced to her. She wanted to hopefully become champion. And so this may not even be done because there was interference. It may not be done because now you have three other women again who are very similar in culture kind of say like, well, you're not going to be bullying somebody. Once again, you're not going to be bullying somebody who you think is alone, because now you got three people and it's now kind of even. You know, you got Lana who's just there, but you have, you know, Vicky, Penelope, and you have the twins, and then you have them. And so if they even make this a thing between the four of them, I wouldn't be surprised. But then there's also the fact that they still have to worry about, you know, the other issue they had earlier in the other episode, where it's like, would this be a problem with if you decide to help her? Would you have now interference from a whole different team because you kind of still had beef with them as well? And so this can really go any ways, and it could just be a whole bunch of like teams or stables kind of brawling because we're clearly getting that kind of energy in the last few episodes. And so I thought it was a good match otherwise, but it's unfortunate that we couldn't see a match where it wasn't no interference. Sometimes it would be nice to kind of see that, where you're like, let's see how well these ladies can do this without somebody kind of, interjecting themselves from the outside.
Yeah, and then on top of that, the thing that I feel that should happen now, because Leia Makoa showed herself to be so strong in the weeks leading up to this match, I feel like her and the Tonga twins and Tiki Shimaro should just challenge the Fab Four for all of the marbles. Just challenge them for all of their titles. Like, because honestly, it was the Tonga twins that was supposed to be champions in the first place during that tag tournament when they were going up against Miami Sweet Heat before they initially aligned with Fab Four. It was supposed to be them that had won that match, but then they had shenanigans, afoot, and then they wound up winning the titles with that. I feel like they owe them a rematch when it comes to that. And then on top of that, you have Penelope Pink, who already owes them a rematch. The only thing is, you also have, Vicky Lynn McCoy, and I don't exactly know who's gonna like fight her specifically, but when you have those four versus those four for all of the marbles, honestly, I feel like that's just how it has to be, and there needs to be somebody to be the equalizer for Lana Star and her interfering, for on behalf of the Fab Four. That's what I really feel like should happen. I'm not sure if it will happen, but I honestly feel like that's really what should happen, because honestly, I'm getting sick and tired of the Fab Four, and I'm also definitely getting sick and tired of Penelope Pink. And she was on Twitter talking about how this was like her first title defense. And I actually asked her in the comments, because y'all saw it in the text thread. I was just like, this is your first defense since you won it like in March. And I'm just sitting here like, ma'am, what have you been doing all this time? You've been ducking everybody. You've been dipping. You've been dodging. What's going on? And she was just like, I've been too busy being fabulous. And I told her, fabulousness does not create dominance. And that's just the truth. You need to be a defending champion, a fighting champion. You avoiding people is not going to make you any more dominant. Like, seriously, you can ask Roman Reigns that. Even though he cheated to win, just like Penelope Pink cheated to win at WrestleMania, Cody Rhodes had his number and he should have been champion by now. And that's an unpopular opinion, but whatever. And if that's the case, then Leia Makoa should have been champion too, because, ma'am, come on, you
Woo!
cheated. And if
Hot
you
take.
hadn't
Stephanie's
cheated,
hot take.
and if you hadn't cheated, you probably wouldn't be champion right now. So hopefully there will be a rematch, and hopefully there'll be an evening of the odds with that. But that was how WOW Superheroes ended this past weekend. Thank you guys so much for joining us for this double dose of WOW Superheroes as we recap both of those episodes from the past 2 weeks. And of course, we will be on next Monday at our regularly scheduled time to talk about, more recent episode of WoW Superheroes. Of course, watch it wherever you can. Watch it. Go on wowe.com. That's WoW's website, to figure out where it's listed for you, on what channel and what time it comes on. But of course, if you're watching from Alabama, it comes on at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time on Saturdays. And you can just figure out wherever else it comes on, But just continue to support the show and support women's wrestling as a whole. These women are tearing it down each and every weekend. So please check it out when you have the chance. DVR it, TiVo it, Pluto TV it, all the things. So, of course, Emily, thank you for joining us. Just tell everybody where they can find and follow you and what you got going on.
Yeah, you can follow me on all social platforms at Emily Mae Heller. It's all right there. And we're getting ready for New Japan this weekend. So we have 2 doubleheader shows. Speaking of 2 shows. So go check it out on Fight TV. And yeah, just follow me. And I have a lot more exciting things happening coming down the line. So thank you all for watching.
All right. And you, Kat?
I'm on most social media platforms and Cat We Trust, TikTok, Twitter, Instagram, the E is a 3. I will be posting the Chicago panel actually very soon. I finally got the video situation together after all of the nonsense and everything of Chicago. And so the Chicago panel will be up on my channel soon. I also have a new interview that I did do before WrestleMania weekend, but I haven't had time to post it. It will be up probably sometime this week with Erica Damiao, young up-and-coming wrestler who, you know, dream matches to fight Billy Starks. And if you know, Billy Starks has had an amazing couple of weeks recently, and so she's super awesome. And so I have an interview with that coming up as far as that, and hopefully just getting to do some more awesome things. Like, I was living vicariously through everybody through WrestleMania, but I was in Chicago, and so just being able to again do the panels have been really amazing. And so just follow me on there, and I'm hoping to have more awesome stuff popping up within the next few weeks.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. And while you ladies are on, I just have to say I'm so proud of you both and all the work you were doing WrestleMania weekend, from hosting panels to interviewing wrestlers in WWE and beyond. Like, I'm so proud to know y'all and so proud to share spaces with you guys all the time. And y'all inspire me to want to just keep going and keep pushing in this thing called life and in this thing called wrestling. So y'all are just my sisters, and I love y'all so much. But of course, you can follow me, your girl Stephanie Hardy, on Instagram and Twitter at Queen Steph Hardy, and listen to my new episode of the Hardy Wrestling Podcast titled Good Kid Mania City, where I talk about my WrestleMania journey and adventures in Los Angeles, as well as a small dose of news and gossip-ish as well. And then tomorrow I will be doing a live feed where I talk about the triple threat match between Mercedes Moné, Azumi, and Hazuki for the IWGP Women's Championship at Sakura Genesis, because that was a good match, and I love me some Mercedes. So of course I have to continue to talk about her and her journey, you know, as she, you know, treks through Japan and just takes the title everywhere. So please join me for that, and continue to support Women's Wrestling Talk. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter at WWTalkPod. Check out our website at www.talkpod.com for all the latest info and news and all of the above, for articles and merchandise and all that. And subscribe to us on YouTube and ring the bell so you can get notified every time we go live or post a new interview or video, you know, and all of the above, so you won't miss anything we've got going on. And also subscribe to us on Twitch too, and like us on Facebook, and just follow us everywhere and continue to support the movement and everything that we're doing, because we are the Avengers of women's wrestling. And we be out here, okay? So, of course, until next time, Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet, continue to support superheroes, and next time.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.